For those of you who are into Subarus or Porsches, Ford EcoBoost, or Nissan GT-R, you're probably familiar with Cobb Tuning. You've probably heard about them. And they're one of the premier tuning brands for those aforementioned brands. They make a ton of different parts, intercoolers, downpipes, exhaust systems, intakes, motor mounts, a whole bunch of different stuff. Their flagship product is the ACCESSPORT, which is basically a tuning platform. So it's a little handheld device. It comes to you preloaded with tunes for your specific application, but it's also a platform for other tuners to work on, and they can upload their tunes to that piece of hardware. Of course, many of the things that we're looking to do when we're tuning is to get around some engine lights and some emissions related components. So for example, if you run a catless downpipe, a lot of people do this on their Subarus, GTRs, Ford EcoBoost, BMW, basically any turbocharged car. A lot of people run a catless downpipe for more power, more efficiency, better spool up, etc. But if you run a catless downpipe, you're going to get an engine light or a diagnostic trouble code. And previously, you could just tune around that with the ACCESSPORT. So you could get rid of the engine light and you get your car to run perfectly fine without a catalytic converter. That's no longer going to be the case because the EPA is cracking down on companies that are making emissions defeat devices or devices which can tune around emissions defeat devices. And unfortunately, Cobb has gotten so scared of the EPA coming and knocking on their door that they've made some big changes to how the ACCESSPORT works. This all started a few days ago with Cobb publishing a blog post titled Green Speed Update April 2022, which goes over the changes that they've made and the fact that they're pushing to get more of their products CARB certified for California product sales. Ultimately, like I mentioned, the EPA is coming after a lot of aftermarket brands who produce emissions defeat devices or make them easier to work with, such as a tuning device. The big piece of news in all of this is the change of all their software that could possibly be viewed as a bypass, defeat, or delete tuning or delete calibration device. So what does this mean exactly? It means that all their off-the-shelf tuning will no longer support catless downpipes, emissions delete products, or things which are not CARB certified. It also means that Cobb's tuning software, Access Tuner, will prevent tuners from creating files which could possibly be viewed as a delete tune or a tune for something that is not CARB certified. To explain that in more detail, that means diagnostic trouble codes that can pop up from O2 sensors, EGT sensors, three-way CAT sensors, EGR sensors, EVAP sensors, secondary air injection sensors, tumble generator valves, and more can no longer be suppressed. So you can no longer shut off your engine light after defeating a emissions component with an ACCESSPORT. What's even worse is that running ethanol with a flex fuel system will set off some of these DTC signals, which means that Cobb has removed the Nissan and Subaru flex fuel features from their ACCESSPORT, even though they continued selling their flex fuel kits up until very recently. Of course, it's understandable as to why Cobb is doing this, with the EPA crushing down on companies and some companies getting handed million-dollar fines, and even more than that, Cobb really obviously wants to avoid getting big fines because big fines are bad for business. So it's totally understandable as to why they're doing this. The issue is the way that they carried it out and the timetable that they carried it out on. The issue isn't removing the features that we've mentioned. It's annoying and it does ultimately suck, but rather it was the fact that they gave everyone basically zero warning on this. They continued selling products like their flex fuel kit as recently as 1 month ago, and now they're locking tuners out of being able to create flex fuel maps. That means that every single customer and every single shop who purchased a flex fuel kit is now screwed unless they go with another tuning option other than Cobb, such as a standalone ECU. Cobb quite literally gave tuners just 30 days between the flex fuel system sales ending and the end of support for those aforementioned kits. It's one thing to stop supporting the product, but it's another to do it with just a 30-day period between stopping the sales of that product and then stopping the support of it. That kind of lack of communication massively screws every shop who relies on Cobb's ACCESSPORT features, and it also screws the customers of those shops, as well as screwing individuals who are going directly to Cobb for an ACCESSPORT and then tuning their car on their own accord. And you might be thinking, why not just switch to another tuning platform, right? There's got to be other ones available. And you'd be right to think that. There are other tuning platforms available, but none of them are quite as big or as mass adopted as the ACCESSPORT. A lot of tuners are willing to work with the ACCESSPORT, especially on the platforms that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So things like Porsche, Nissan, Subaru, those types of platforms, pretty much everybody runs an ACCESSPORT. But that means because so many people run an ACCESSPORT, not a whole lot of other platforms have a lot of adoption or a lot of tuners behind them. Sure, there's things like ECUTech, which is probably the closest competitor to Cobb, but the thing is, ECUTech has the same parent company as Cobb, which means that ECUTech is going to go through similar transitions here in the coming weeks or months, just as Cobb did. Of course, the ultimate solution would be to switch to a standalone ECU, which you basically get rid of your OEM ECU entirely and switch it for an aftermarket one, such as like a Haltech ECU, for example. And that gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more advanced features, things like launch control, boost by gear, much easier flex fuel. There's a ton of very advanced features that come with a standalone ECU. But the thing is, rather than being $500 to $1,000 for an ACCESSPORT, a standalone ECU can be as much as $5,000 depending on the setup that you go with. And sure, there are cheaper options like Megasquirt, which can actually be super affordable. But the thing is, Megasquirt isn't as mass adopted for all those applications that I mentioned. And also with Megasquirt, you're going to do a lot of custom tuning yourself and a lot of custom wiring just to get it to work on your vehicle. And then the question is, how long is it going to be until other companies that make standalone ECUs, how long is it going to be until they start making similar changes where they're blocking out features on anything that has to do with emissions components? How long is it going to be until Megasquirt does the same thing? Right? What Cobb is doing does really suck, and it could potentially cause a domino effect, or it could also cause the opposite. These changes will likely end up with the ACCESSPORT dropping in popularity, which means that something has to take its place. So now it could just be a waiting game to see which platform rises up as the new ACCESSPORT. To be fair though, Cobb supposedly has a solution coming, although they haven't disclosed when it will come through or what it will be. And to be fair, this isn't something that we didn't see coming. Cobb has been publishing blog posts regarding their green speed plan and how they want to make their entire product line, literally every single product that they have, CARB approved. But the thing is, it's a little bit frustrating for all of us outside of California, because sure, it's nice to have all those products CARB approved, but for those of us that are not in California, those regulations don't mean anything to us. So what do you guys think will happen? Do you think Cobb will come up with a solution to fix this problem that they've created? Or do you think another platform will rise up in popularity? Or do you think we're all gonna have to switch to standalone ECUs here in the near future and learn how to tune ourselves in order to do things like flex fuel kits or catless downpipes? Let me know down in the comments below. I really wanna know what you guys think about this situation because it is very interesting and very new. While you're down there, be sure to smash the thumbs up button for all of our fallen Cobb soldiers out there. Get subscribed so you don't miss out on future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.